Well, welcome again to another session of the 18th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. You're stuck with me again as the moderator and probably get tired of me doing the intro, but such is life. We're fortunate to have with us for this session Art Brownlow, who is professor of music at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. He teaches music history. And he has all kinds of awards. He's a fellow in the University of Texas System Academy of Distinguished Teachers, a founding fellow in the Texas Rio Grande Valley Academy of Distinguished Teachers, an Apple Distinguished Educator, received the UT System Regents Outstanding Teaching Award, College Music Society Instructional Technology and Initiative Award, and a bunch of other stuff. You don't have room on your wall for everything. Boy. Anyway, we are honored to have you. Art's going to talk about do-it-yourself course chat box for teaching. It's easier than you think. So, Art, tell us how easy it is.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for attending today. I am Art Brownlow from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. That's in deep South Texas. We are a regional public institution with an enrollment of almost 36,000 students. And as you said, I am professor of music, but I'm also faculty fellow for academic innovation in our Office of Student Success. And in that capacity, I've been working with AI in teaching and learning since about 2 weeks after ChatGPT 3.5 was released back in late November of 2022. And I've been creating chatbots now for over a year. And as a music professor, as you said, I do teach upper division music history classes to our music majors, and all of that will factor in the discussion today. But today we're here to talk about using AI for teaching and course engagement. Now, this is one of my favorite cartoons. I ran across it probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, but I've kept it all these years. I love it. Let me just let you read through it quickly. I've even thought about making my own sign, but I never did. But guess what? Now I've got something today that's better than a sign. It's called a custom GPT. Now, before we dive in, I just want to give you the agenda for the session. Introduction, there it is, already done. You can check that box. Next, I'm going to define a custom GPT.
I'm sorry.
And
Is
yes,
there any way that you could check to see about your screen being shared? Currently, we can't see anything other
oh,
than
really?
art.
Okay. Oh, we tested this earlier. All right, I will unshare and share again, I guess. Let's try that. You're seeing blank?
No,
No,
I'm not seeing
nothing.
Blink. I'm just seeing you.
Just the
Oh,
people. We don't see any share screen. Admit you got three monitors. Maybe you're not on the right monitor. There you go.
okay. Yeah.
And yeah, there we go. We got
Oh,
it.
okay. I don't know why it flicked out because it was working earlier, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. As long as we've got it going now, we'll keep going and let me know if you lose it again.
Will do.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll continue. I'm going to define a custom GPT next and an educational chat bot. Then I'll demonstrate three of my own chat bots and show their capabilities. Next, we'll discuss considerations, like effectiveness, privacy and security, copyright considerations. I'll show you how I created my chatbots and give you some design best practices. Then I'll show how I implemented them into my class workflow. And then finally, the hands-on bit where you can try this out yourselves. And this last bit then will morph into Q&A. So let's get started. What is a custom GPT? So custom GPTs are just like ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude. They're all AI chatbots. You ask them a question, give them a prompt, you get a response. But these custom GPTs will be, well, customized for your specific purposes. So let's back up then and say, ask the question, what is a GPT? As you see here, it is a generative pre-trained transformer, which means it generates new material upon prompting it. It uses a pre-trained data set and transformer architecture. And that last bit, I don't really understand. I'm not a data scientist. Uh, uh, but from what I read, apparently many of the folks who design these tools don't exactly understand how they work either, so I don't feel so bad. But the important part of this definition is definitely the pre-trained bit. In our case, this will be our own course materials. Now, our special purpose today is to create chatbots that are customized, for our classes. And so here's the definition of this type of custom GPT chatbot. And if you can see the screen, I'll let you read it. The key here is enhancing student engagement, but also saving time through effective course management. And so I'm going to show you how I designed AI chatbots for specific tasks, that align with this definition. But in a few words, my chatbots, one, can provide around-the-clock support for students, and two, reinforce content mastery in an engaging way. Now, the elephant in the room, let's get that addressed. I'm sure you all want to know which tool I'm using for this, and it is ChatGPT Plus, which does cost $20 per month. So why are we using ChatGPT Plus instead of Copilot or Gemini or Claude, or even the free version of ChatGPT? Well, the answer is the others either can't create these custom GPTs, or they throw up too many barriers, or the product they offer is inferior. Let me give you an example. A couple of months ago, I heard that Claude is now providing app building in its free version. You can go in and it'll help you build an app. I thought, great, I can build an app that would do everything a custom GPT would do. So I did it. I went in, used it, built this app. The product was terrible, miles behind the quality of the GPTs that I was building with ChatGPT Plus. But there are also third-party apps, but they often cost just as much or more than ChatGPT Plus. For a good example is Boodlebox. I love Boodlebox. It's really a great tool. So kind of a multi-tool AI product, for the education market, and it includes a very nice GPT builder. But if your college doesn't have an institutional site license, then you have to buy the individual license, which is, you guessed it, $20 a month, just like ChatGPT. So I just default rather back to ChatGPT Plus. It really is the best tool you can use right now, and the key word is right now. But things change so rapidly in this space that this statement could be wrong today because of something that was released yesterday or this morning, and I missed it, right? But anyway, we have to all be on our toes for this AI moving target. But today, ChatGPT Plus is my tool. So here's what you can do. Just pay the $20 for 1 month, create all your chatbots, and then drop your subscription. And because this is the very important point here. Even though you must create your chatbots with the paid version, your students can use those chatbots you create with the free version. So that's a fundamental concept to understand moving forward. And another thing to remember, you can use ChatGPT Plus to create these custom GPTs on your mobile devices as well, as long as you're subscribed to Plus. The only restriction is you can't create GPTs on the GPT app, like an iOS or iPad app, GPT app, but just open a browser and you can create GPTs just as you would on a laptop or desktop. All right. So let me introduce you to Sarah and Tony. These are my two teaching assistants, and they are course information chatbots. And yes, I know I like to anthropomorphize my chatbots. I don't know, it just seems to make them a bit more approachable, I think, to my students. Maybe not, but I'm doing it anyway. Uh, so why would we want course information chatbots like these? Well, like in the cartoon, maybe you didn't see the cartoon, but it was students asking the teacher all kinds of questions that were already in the syllabus. And she finally held up a sign that said, "It's in the syllabus." So, like in that cartoon, these course chatbots will answer all those syllabus questions, especially when we're not available. And since we'll use the course syllabus in this situation as a knowledge base, I like to call these types of GPTs syllabots, and I've even put it in Sarah's name there. So these two chatbots are basically the same, but they're the syllabots for two different music history courses that I teach. So my syllabus is super detailed. Anything a student needs to know about course policies, requirements, assignments, assessments, projects, deadlines, and even those university policies that are there. They make us put in the syllabi. All of that is there as data for the chatbot to access or scrape, as they say. And this is a wonderful tool for the students because they can access it at any time, day or night. It's also great for when a student doesn't have time to search through the syllabus or just doesn't go there for any whatever reason. Does it replace the syllabus? No, but it does make the information in the syllabus more accessible. So now here are some questions you see. Fairly typical for a syllabot. And the answers are all in the syllabus, but it seems like many students, need that information at 3 a.m., right? And chances are low they'll spend any time digging through the syllabus at that point. But they can ask the syllabot a specific question and get a specific answer right away. And that's the beauty of these informational chatbots. So let's see how Sarah handles some of these questions. Question about absences. So here it gives all the information students would need about absences in the course. I like that the answers are organized and detailed. There's one thing about these AI GPT tools, they do consistently organize in lists that are numbered and in bullet points, very easy to access the information. Here's another one about discussion boards. Again, it gives the information the student asked for, but it gives even more. You see at the bottom there, it gives content guidelines. And I didn't give you the whole response, but if you could scroll through it a little bit, you'd see it also gives them the grading rubric. It talks about discussion board etiquette and standard discussion post rules. So for this question, it actually goes a little further in the information that it provides. But even so, this is all expected. We would expect a chatbot like this to answer basic questions about the course. But then I found that this chatbot goes in directions I didn't even anticipate. Let me give you an idea here. Here is something that happened in one of last year's courses. As you can see from the prompt, I had a student add the class just before Census Day. And for us, that's 3 weeks into the course. And I'm thinking, oh, gosh, it's going to take me 20, 30 minutes to come up with a plan to get this student up to speed in the class. Then I'm going to have to meet with them and get all this sorted out. And then I thought, why not ask the chatbot? So you see, I asked the chatbot to help this student catch up with in the most efficient way, right? And the chatbot gave some very good ideas and then prioritized and explained them, saved me a lot of time, saved everybody a lot of time, and gave the student a very detailed and organized answer. Very helpful. Here's another example. I wondered if the chatbot could help students with their bibliographies for their term project. So I gave it this prompt. Just look at my bibliography, tell me how to improve it. And I submitted one of my past students' bibliographies. Now you can see it starts with the string. It analyzed it, it reviewed it, and then it gave this response. It started with the strengths. But the big problem with this submission was that the citations were not in MLA formatting style. In fact, the student, all that they did was they gave me a list of URLs. And finally, you see at the very bottom, the bot did identify, kind of upfront the real problem. It said many are just URLs. Actually, it was being generous. They were all URLs. So in the response, it showed the student what those citations should really look like. And then finally, it gave some broad suggestions, some best practices with regards to citations. So anyway, the bottom line here is that these informational chatbots, these syllabots, benefit everyone. They save me time, and the students, because the students can have access to this information and get answers, 24/7. All right, so now let's look at another type of chatbot. Now, this is Phil here. Phil is a chatbot tutor who can be used as a personal learning coach and actually engages with the course content, not just syllabus information. Um, but obviously, the knowledge base for this GPT will not be the syllabus. It has to have the course content, in the knowledge base. So from my knowledge base, I used an entire open source textbook from OpenStax. Now, I don't know, some of you may have heard of OpenStax. It's based at Rice University, and it produces peer-reviewed textbooks that are entirely free to the students, under Creative Commons licensing. These are, I'm sure you've probably heard of this term by now. These are open educational resources, OER. And this textbook has over 200,000 words. That's pretty hefty, but ChatGPT Plus handles it nicely as the knowledge base for this chatbot. Now, in this speech bubble, here are some examples of what you might ask a chatbot tutor like Phil for a philosophy course. And it will give you accurate and very specific answers to these questions, questions like these based, of course, on the textbook. But there's so much more that a student and an instructor can do with this kind of chatbot other than ask questions. For example, it can be used to engage in role-playing activities. It can be used for debating, for summarizing difficult topics, interviewing historical figures, getting help with assignments. And it's capable of much, much more. Basically, it can be used as a personal learning coach. Now, you might remember on Phil's landing page, I don't know if you had a chance to read through them all, but there were 4 leading questions, and this was the last one. So I went to that and I clicked on this question about Socrates. And Phil and I had a few back and forths about this, and then I brought Aristotle into the conversation. And in back and forth, and we finally ended up with this. It's a text thread, an imagined text thread between Socrates and Aristotle on their smartphones. Uh, anyway, this is really quite entertaining to read through. Um, but I realized in the end it was teaching me the differences between these two, iconic philosophers, but in a fun and engaging way. Uh, this is pretty powerful stuff. And in fact, here's a study from Harvard that was published just this past June. Let me quote the summary. The study compared the effectiveness of AI tutoring with active learning in undergraduate physics education. It found that when students were given access to an AI tutor designed using pedagogical principles, it not only doubled their learning gains, but did so in less time than traditional methods. So we're beginning to get proof now that AI tutoring can be a powerful tool for enhancing traditional classroom teaching. But a word of caution here. You've got to be very careful with Phil because he has all the knowledge of your textbook. This chatbot will answer correctly any question about the course you ask it, and it'll also answer students' questions. So if, for example, you give standardized test questions in unsupervised test environments, this chatbot will ace the test every time, and so will anyone who has access to that chatbot. Now, this is Tessie and Muse. They are my efforts to resolve this problem. So they're chatbots for world history and music appreciation courses. And I call them Socratic chatbots because, as they say, they won't just give you the answers. They ask questions in return. They prompt you, they nudge you to reason your way through to get the answer. So in creating these two chatbots, I added instructions to make them use guided inquiry instead of providing outright answers. Now, in the fall, you may have played around with this actually, because in the fall, ChatGPT came out with what they call study mode, which basically does the same thing as my Socratic chatbots. But typical ChatGPT, it uses the entire web as its database and all that's good and bad about that. So I still like my bots better because of their controlled knowledge base. All right, now I want to show you one final type of chatbot that I just completed and I plan to test this semester with my students. So a little context here. I mentioned earlier that I have a semester project. So in my music history classes, I have my students create a digital artifact as a term project. It's basically an ebook. As you can see here, I call it an interactive book. But I require them to submit a midterm draft of just the text of this book. And so that brings me to my AI policy, which is in my syllabus, front and center. I think it's on my third or fourth page of the syllabus. But with regard to this assignment, my policy expressly forbids them to use AI to generate content or first drafts. But it does allow them, in fact, it requires them to use AI to edit their rough drafts. Why do I do this? Two reasons. First, it teaches them an ethical way to use AI. And secondly, it helps me in the grading process. Look, I'm not a writing instructor. I don't know how to teach writing. And even if I did, I don't have weeks in the semester to train them on their writing for this particular assignment. But still, when I'm reviewing these drafts and giving feedback, I just can't let incoherent sentences and run-on sentences and poor grammar. I can't just let all that sit there. I have to correct it so I can read it and so it makes sense to me. Uh, Now, not all the drafts I review are that bad, but enough are, and all have some problems that it essentially doubles the time it takes me to review these drafts. So I began to use AI to accomplish this. Now, first I had them work last couple of semesters. I would give them prompts, that I created, and then they were supposed to take those prompts and take their drafts and use whatever AI tool they wanted, Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever, to clean up the grammar and the syntax errors and all of that. But that process didn't go as smoothly as I expected. The students had trouble negotiating the AI tools by themselves, or they didn't understand how to use the prompts. It was kind of a mess. So I backed off of that and switched gears. And so this is what I'm trying now anew to see if this will solve this problem. Now, I designed this custom GPT chatbot. I called it Draft Detective. And as you see, it will evaluate the student's rough draft and then give step-by-step directions on how students can revise their drafts so they turn in a cleaner copy to me. It won't change the student author's meaning or ideas or organization or voice. It won't change any of those things. It will just address grammatical errors, spelling errors, syntax errors, those kinds of things. It basically gives them editorial guidance. So then I can give my attention to the content of the text. And that, for me, it's a music history course. I need to focus on the musical background, the analysis of the music, and not spend all my time correcting grammar. So how do they use it? This is the landing page. All they have to do is drag their rough drafts into the bot, as you see here. It says you can do it chapter by chapter. If it's not too long, it doesn't get too uh, confused if you put a too long a paper in there. So you can put the whole thing in. And in fact, I did this to show you an example here. And so this is what the response looks like for an actual student paper that I uploaded the entire paper into the bot. And you see it begins by giving a summary of each paragraph. Then it checks to make sure the draft has all the right components. It also performs an integrity check, then followed by an overview of the errors present. Then comes a paragraph by paragraph review of the major errors. And then we move on to phase two. We're digging a little deeper here with specific guidance and models. Some editing notes here. And then finally, a what to do next guide. So with this information, hopefully students now will be able to effectively revise their rough drafts, learn about the revision process at the same time, and then, as I said before, learn how to use AI in an ethical manner. So haven't tried this out yet. This is going to happen in the next few weeks as we hit the midterm here. We'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic about it. Maybe I'll do a session next year on what happened with Draft Detective, and I'll tell you all about it. All right, some considerations. Here's some things to think about. You may have already been thinking about copyright, especially when I was telling you I used a textbook as my knowledge base for Phil, even though it was an open source textbook. You may have had some red flags go up around that time. Well, it turns out there's no need to worry, at least immediately. Copyright laws with regard to AI are really murky right now, but here are a couple of decisions that give some clarity. So this first one is from the U.S. Copyright Office from early last year. It rules that content generated solely by Gen AI is not copyrightable, but human created works that incorporate or come from AI assistance can qualify for copyright protection. So the point of this seems to be the evidence of human activity, not just providing prompts, but the iterative process of the human creating something new with the help of AI, like our custom GPT chatbots. And this ruling provides even more clarity for what we're doing here. This came down from a federal district court in mid-year 2025, last year. It says that training AI models on legally purchased books, even without the author's permission, is fair use. Now, that was halfway good news for Anthropic. That was the company, that's the company that made Claudes, and this was the company that was being sued in this case. But the bad news in this decision was that they found that Anthropic also trained Claude on books that were not purchased legally, and that's considered pirated material, and that's a no-no. So they won part of this and lost part of this. Anthropic did. So from these recent court decisions, it appears that as long as you're using legally purchased books for your chatbots or open source books like OER, you should be good to go. A final consideration is user privacy and data security. These are concerns with all AI chatbots. But when you first begin to build your chatbot, you'll see this page. I'm going to take you through it a little bit in a minute, but it's basically a public GPT library. Now, the chatbots you create with ChatGPT Plus are not automatically published in this library. When you create your bot, the default option is to provide you with a link to your bot. This means that you choose who can use it, like you and your students only. The only ones who use it are the ones who you give that link to. If you want to publish your bot in this library, you actually have to click a button to do so. Um, I mentioned earlier about Claude's new app chatbot feature that I tried out produces an inferior experience. Well, here's another downside about that chatbot, that app chatbot I made. It requires publishing all the apps you make online. You don't have that. You can't default out of that with the Claude app app building feature. So anyway, that's another point in favor of ChatGPT Plus. Also, you as the creator of the GPT, you will not have access to the chat data from your students' interactions with the bot. Now, some people have told me they would like this option. I don't know. For me, I feel like my students might be a bit inhibited if they knew I could look at their interactions. So it doesn't bother me. But can OpenAI, ChatGPT's parent company, can they access the chat data of your students? The answer is yes, if you don't make a couple of important adjustments. So let me get granular here and show you exactly what you need to do. The first adjustment you want to make is from the landing page of ChatGPT Plus. You'll access your settings by clicking on the little green circle with your initials and your name next to it. You can see it in the bottom left corner there. When you click up on it, you'll get a pop-up window like this. And in that window, you'll see settings. So you'll want to click settings. In the left side menu in settings, you'll see one called data controls. You click on that and you'll see this window on the right. Now notice the control option at the very top of the list. It says improve the model for everyone. If that is on, then click it. And in this window, turn it off by toggling this switch. There should be no blue in this switch here. Then you click done at the bottom of the window. I know you have to jump through some hoops to do this, right? They want to be able to use the data from your GPTs, but you can turn that option off. And that means that OpenAI will not store or use your students' conversations for training their models. Now, there's one more security adjustment we'll make later for redundancy, but I'll come to that a little bit later. Now, let's talk about how to build one of these custom GPTs. If you happen to have ChatGPT Plus and you want to open it up and see what I'm showing here, follow along, you can. If not, don't worry. You can follow along with the process anyway and with the information you'll get from the presentation. I have a QR code where you can access these slides at the end. And then you'll be able to build a chatbot later. All right, for those of you familiar with ChatGPT, you'll recognize the landing page. And once you're on the landing page, look over at the left-hand menu, and there you will see Explore GPTs. The answer is pointing there. Now, you probably won't have a number of custom GPTs like you see in my window, but just look for the GPT category, and you will find Explore GPTs right under it. So click on that. And this brings you to the page I mentioned before, that library of custom GPTs. Now, there are thousands of these GPTs here that others have created, and you can search the database, explore these as you will. But our purpose here is to build our own chatbot. So to do that, there's a black Create button with a plus sign in the top corner of the page, and you click that, and it brings you to this page. It's the configuration page. But now yours will have all these prompt boxes empty. Now, this is my configuration page for Phil, the philosophy chatbot tutor I showed you earlier. Now you see at the very top, there's a Create tab and a Configure tab. You'll want the Configure tab for our purposes. Now, to be fair, I'm not showing it here, but this is not the full page. When you access this, there will be a right side to this page where you'll find a real-time user-facing model of the chatbot you'll be creating. It'll be showing the choices and adjustments you make as you're building your bot in real time. But the working part is here in this pane, and this is what I want you to see. So it really is as simple as this. It's just one page to create your own chatbot. So let's just take a look real quickly at how you would fill out this form. Um, at the top where you see the image of Phil, you can add your own image or logo, and what you'll be looking at is a round prompt box with a plus sign in the middle. that you'll click that and add a PNG or a JPEG file. Um, and then incidentally, I created the image of Phil with ChatGPT's Dolly image generation model, and then just put it in my files and accessed it through this prompt box here. Um, Next, you'll see a couple of prompt boxes. The name, you'll enter the name of the bot followed by 1 or 2 sentence description. That's pretty easy. Hi, I'm Phil, your philosophy TA. This is what I'll do. Not too much difficulty there. But then the next one is the most important part of the instructions. The part of the configuration, and that is the instructions, the set of instructions. I'm going to return to this. So let's just put a pin in this right now. Next, you'll want to create a few leading questions or conversation starters, as they are called here, to give your users some ideas about how to use the bot. You can do this yourself or ask ChatGPT to give you some ideas. I did that, did it. Next, you'll upload the knowledge base. And as you can see here, this is where I dragged in the entire OER philosophy textbook as a PDF. Now, remember Sarah, my Syllabot? Here, instead of a textbook, I just uploaded my detailed syllabus. Next, a few check boxes. Definitely do not check the web search box because you want to restrict your knowledge base to only the text that you upload. If you check this one, then the bot will go out into the web looking for source material, and trust me, you don't want that. The others generally do not pertain to these types of chatbots, so I just leave them unchecked. You can too. And now actions. I don't want to go too deeply in this. This basically allows you to bring in external tools to enhance your GPT's capabilities. They're called application programming interfaces or APIs. You plug them in, they give more information. Like for this, maybe the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy or the Perseus Digital Library, which has classic Greek and Latin text. You might want to plug these in here to enhance your GPT. And finally, you had to scroll down a little bit. I didn't have enough room on the page here, but there's one bottom one called additional settings. If it's not open, you click on the little arrow and it will open up, and you'll see use conversation data in your GPT to improve our models. Again, they kind of hide it, but unclick this. Definitely unclick it. The default is being clicked here. This is the redundancy I mentioned earlier with regard to user privacy and data security. Again, it should be unclicked. All right, now let's shift from the specifics of building custom GPTs to the theory and practice behind the types of bots that you'll be creating for your classes. Here's my best practices list. This came from my experiences and reading of others' experiences. Let's go through it real quickly here. User-centered design, you want to create your chatbot to solve real problems. What kind of problems? What need do you have? Let's create a chatbot for that. You want to encourage users to think critically and make decisions rather than just receiving answers. Rigorous testing, test for both expected use cases and edge cases. They call this adversarial training, and most experts tell you that you should spend as much time testing your model as you do building it. This makes sure the GPT is prepared to handle misuse and unexpected inputs. Transparency and trust. You want to design the GPT to acknowledge its limitations, defer to human expertise where necessary. And of course, here's where you will actively test for and try to mitigate biases and hallucinations in the GPT's responses. Those are getting much better there with each iteration of these models.
Art, we have a question.
Yes.
Sarah asks, is that Canvas the LMS? If so, does it give access to everything in a Canvas shell?
I'm actually going to show you how I incorporate my Syllabot into my workflow, into my LMS workflow. I'm going to actually show you how I do that later yeah, if
Art,
that's
really,
what your question is.
Art, my question actually was in the creating of the bot on the previous slide. One
Oh,
of the
yes.
options was Canvas, and I was wondering if that refers to the LMS or if
No,
that's
it doesn't.
else.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's a different,
Thank you.
different thing. Yeah. Let's see, boundaries and safety. Define clear rules for what the GPT can and cannot do. Make sure it handles ambiguity responsibly, steers clear of inappropriate outputs. Again, you want to test for these things. And finally, iterative refinement, very important. You want to continuously improve through like user feedback, performance metrics, and updates to the knowledge base. So I'm constantly going back to the instructions and adding more as I and my students use the chatbot. Here we can dig a little deeper into writing those instructions, and I don't want to run out of time, so I'm not going to take the time to go over each one of these today, but they'll be there for you to look over later. But you do want to think of these leading questions when you begin. And then after even after you've made your first draft of your instructions, you can use this list to help you brainstorm and ask ChatGPT to review your draft in this list and let you know how well you address these criteria. It'll give you suggestions for improvement, and you can even have it write a revised version based on that feedback. And I just briefly here show you the iteration process of the very first chatbot I built. Here are my initial instructions for Tessie, the world history chatbot tutor. And it was a good start, but it needed refinement. As you can see, I composed this in narrative form, and that's all right. But after testing and evaluating with the help of ChatGPT Plus, this is what I came up with. You see now it's in outline form. It's categorized in section. It has example scenarios and that model possible questions and responses and things. And well, are the instructions more complicated now? Yes, but they are more effective, and I think therefore, better for the student. Real quickly here, I'd like to show you the workflow I follow to create my GPTs from the first draft of the instructions all the way to the completed chatbot. So you begin by considering the guidelines from that previous slide, and you write your first draft with of the instructions, just the instructions. Then you ask ChatGPT to review your draft with those criteria in mind, as I mentioned on the last slide, and you revise the instructions according to ChatGPT's feedback. Then you get into the GPT builder in GPT Plus, and you finish creating your chatbot as I showed you earlier. Then here comes one of the most important parts is, as I mentioned, you'll challenge it and you'll test your chatbot for those expected use cases, the misuse, the edge cases. You'll do it with a series of questions. So if you want some help with this part of the process, this is the cool thing. You can upload your revised instructions into ChatGPT and the database, your textbook, and then ask it to come up with test questions. And it'll come up with 20 or 30 test questions within each of those categories. And you can test your chatbot with those questions. Again, this is called adversarial training. Then you'll want to revise again. And this is important as well as you move through the semester and your class uses the chatbot, get feedback from your students and keep a list of revisions you'll want to make based on that feedback. Now, after the feedback, you may feel like you need to make changes. When you do, editing is easy. From the Explore pages, from the Explore GPTs page, you've seen that before. Just click on My GPTs. You'll see it now next to the Create sign. And it'll take you to a page with all of your custom GPTs. Then you just click on the pencil icon next to the GPT you want to edit. It'll take you back to the configuration page. There you can make any changes, and then you'll see instead of the original create button, you'll see an update button. Click that and it will save the changes. Here is the inevitable caveat though. I'm afraid you'll have to pony up $20 again for another monthly subscription in order to do the editing. I'll bet some of you were wondering about that. I'm sorry to give you the bad news. And then finally, as far as integrating the chatbot into my workflow, it couldn't be easier. Here I've created, we use Brightspace instead of Canvas or Blackboard, but here I've created a tile on the landing page of my course. And this is actually the syllabot for the class I'm teaching right now. I call him Tony the TA. And you just click on that tile and it takes the student to a full page devoted to the chatbot. They get an explanation, what it is, what it will do. Then I do give a heads up that they'll need to sign up for the free version of ChatGPT to use the chatbot. And then finally, I give them multiple links to the GPT. All right, so that is a comprehensive look into designing, creating, and implementing custom GPT chatbots, along with some models for you to consider. The bottom line here is that if you can create an effective course chatbot using the best practices I've identified and can smoothly integrate that bot into your course workflow, I think you'll end up with something yeah, pretty powerful for your students. All right, before we get to the hands-on part and wrap up with some Q&A, let me give you my contact info. And if you have any questions after the fact or you want some help, when you're building your custom GPTs, feel free to contact me. I'll be glad to help. And if you don't get it right here, I'll copy my email address into the into the chat of Zoom after I close out this slideshow. Here's the hands-on part. There are 9 different chatbot tutors in various fields here. These are GPTs I've built for different workshops and demonstrations over this past year. In just a minute, I'm going to put the links to these in the chat. So choose the one or more you're interested in, ask it questions, but don't just ask it content questions. Ask it to come up with some active learning strategies or personal learning activities. And by the way, I do want to let you know that the knowledge base for all of these are OER textbooks. The ones with the square icons plus Muse and Tessie have full textbooks as their knowledge base, and the others along the bottom there have single chapters as their knowledge base. Those are indicated in parentheses. And finally, one more thing. Remember that Muse and Tessie are both Socratic chatbots that make you work for the answers. So you want to try those as well. Now, the plan is to morph this hands-on time with the final Q&A part. But first, here's the QR code and the URL to the slideshow. Again, I'll put this URL in the chat when I close out this slideshow. And you can download the slideshow if you want. So as you're playing around with the chatbots, tell the rest of us what you're finding. Ask me questions about the entire presentation, whatever you want. All right, now I'm going to get out of the presentation now and post all this up. There we go, and there we are. All right, and let me open up chat. Let me grab my custom GPTs. All right, there are the custom GPTs. Click on any one of them and go play with them. Here is the bit.ly URL for my slideshow. And here is my email address in case anybody wants to get in touch with me. All right, I guess we'll open it up to questions now. And as you're playing around with the chat bots, tell me what you're experiencing.
Well, I know I'm going to be playing with these. It's great.
So, Art, do you integrate your human touch with these as well while you're in the course, as far as having live chats with the students and discussing different things with the students, and then these are just the other options they can include to
They're
enhance
course,
Okay.
yeah, they're course tools. They're course tools for me. Now, full disclosure, I am not using a content chatbot yet, like the ones here that you're playing around with in my course, because I can't, well, I don't have an open educational resource that works for my class. And the main reason, though, is I'm teaching my class right now synchronous online. And so I have to give some assessments online that I can't supervise. And so uh, I'm going to have to hold off on that until I teach face to face. Somebody has their hands up. James.
Hi there. How you doing?
Hi. Okay.
Great job on this good stuff. For the for all of these, I want to go back to it was the slide where you've got Tony, your course assistant. Can you go back to that? It was implementation, course integration.
Let me see. What did I do with my?
And the question is, while you're pulling that up, is for those modules, are you including additional documents or attachments in there, or is it only specific to that textbook?
Let's see. You're talking about my LMS page?
Yeah, it's where you've got that widget in there, but if you click into the widget, you've got Tony, the course assistant, and I
Yeah.
noticed the left-hand side, it expands out. So do you have additional resources in which Tony is using from the course, or are you only using the textbook for Tony to look at?
All right. This one right here. So yeah. So this is you click the tile from the student clicks the tile from the landing page and gets to this page. And so Tony is a syllabot. So Tony will only answer questions about the syllabus. If you see in the small print there, ask him anything about course policies, requirements, et cetera, et cetera. He's not quite up to speed on course content yet. So it's not a content chatbot. It only deals with information from the syllabus.
I got you. Sorry, I haven't
So no
seen.
plugins or anything like that for this one.
Yeah, I didn't realize that D2L had the left-hand column. I thought that was specific to Tony, the course assistant. He could assist you with each one of those.
Actually, I should have shown you the actual page in my LMS. But if you scroll down, whoops, if you scroll down here, I have like 10 or 12 suggestions, you know, things that they could they could ask this chatbot just to give them an idea, you know, just to get them started.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Art, I'm sorry, I can't find my hand raising tool.
That's
So I'm
okay.
just unmuting here. I just wanted to clarify, and you may have already stated this, and I apologize. So to use these course integrations, you do not need to work with your school's IT team, correct? You just incorporate them in your courses?
No, I don't. Uh, the way it works here is that our IT team acknowledges which uh, tech tools they accept and will that you know faculty can use, and ChatGPT is on that list. So for us
Okay, thank you.
now, we do have a Microsoft site license, right? And so the default here is Copilot, but Copilot just doesn't do the job in many cases. And so, but they've also put ChatGPT on that list as well, so we can use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I hope you all will go out and get a 1 month subscription and build a whole bunch of custom GPTs and try them out with your students and see what you see what I find uh, recently that the more I'm thinking instead of asking AI to help me on a base level, if I have a problem, I'm more thinking along the lines of what kind of chatbot can I build to solve this problem? And I'll have maybe 1 minute. I'll tell you this. I do team-based learning in my class all the way through the semester, and I usually set up teams at the beginning of the semester and keep those same teams all the way through the semester. And there are several criteria I use to form my teams. And before, it would take me hours to look at those criteria for each student and try to get very diverse teams. And so I built myself a chatbot this semester that will do that, and it worked wonderfully. I just put in the student, the criteria, put it into the chatbot, and it came up with teams and diverse teams. Saved me hours.
Do you have any experience with Chat Pro?
Uh, ChatGPT Pro, the one that costs like $200 a month. No, I don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I don't have that. I don't have that one. I think that's more for data scientists, is it not? Or but
I don't know
anyway,
any.
this, yeah, go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, I don't know anything about it. I thought you'd have more information regarding that.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that really uses that except the hardcore data scientists. I think for what we do in our classes, ChatGPT Plus is very good. And if you get the ChatGPT EDU license through your university, that's very similar to the one that I'm using, but it has also the data security built in.
I'll second that. ChatGPT Plus does plenty, and I think that's all you're going to need.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, great. I know what I'm going to be doing over the lunch hour. I
Let
think
me know how your GPTs come out.
this is great. Good practical stuff for us to work with, and it really has a lot of benefits for students. So
Thank you.